Would you like a little map tour of West Linn, Oregon, because you're considering moving there? Well, in today's video, I'm going to take you through a tour of West Linn on a map. It's where I grew up. I know it like the back of my hand, so let's get to it. Now, real quick, if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button, tap the notification bell because we put out videos every single week that help you understand the cities, the neighborhoods, living, moving, all of it in the Portland metro area. And we'd love for you to be a part of our community. All right, let's jump right into it. We're getting after it today with West Linn, Oregon. I can speak a lot to this city because, well, I grew up here, born and raised, so I know it like the back of my hand. West Linn is a cute little bedroom community just outside of Portland Metro. We kind of call it the sister or little brother to Lake Oswego. It's a great alternative if you're looking to get a little more bang for your buck housing-wise. And it's really got some neat neighborhoods that I want to share with you today. Now, West Linn's not a super big city, right? But it is just on the south part of the 205. It butts up against the Willamette River. You can kind of see that here. And because it's right here at the Willamette, we're just going to start right here. So Willamette River, you can see it flows north and south of here. That goes all the way into downtown Portland. And we're going to start with the little part of West Linn called Willamette. Willamette is oh so cute and charming. I can't say enough good things about it. I've always said if I moved back to West Linn, that's probably the area I would enjoy the most because it's got this cute little Americana downtown. Now, when I was growing up, this area was the oldest part. You know, there's homes that are built that are historic in the West Linn Willamette area here. They were built back in the yesteryear, early turn of the century. And since then, they've been renovated. People have remodeled them and they're totally charming. But there's not a ton of development in this area. There's a few areas where builders have kind of bought up city lots and built, larger homes or whatnot. But in general, it still kind of feels like that old kind of charm that we all love here in Portland. You see it a lot on the east side of town, not so much in the burbs. But this area in West Linn definitely has the charm. And what's really great about this location is that there is a downtown kind of main street, if you will. It's Willamette Falls, but it's kind of like the main street. There are a ton of retailers, restaurants, coffee shops. I mean, it's all going on down here and it's been renovated. Like, it's really a beautiful downtown area. It's clean. They have food trucks. There's a great area that has a location where you can go and they have like a little beer garden and a bunch of food truck options, which, as you might know, we're really big here in the Portland metro area. And it's really just got this feel and vibe. So if you bought a house or you're living in this Willamette area of West Linn, you're within walking distance to all of that. And what do we like the most? We like walkability. Not to mention, you are really close to Willamette Park. So we have done a video on the Willamette area of West Linn. You can go check it out. But Willamette Park is this really big park that butts up against the Willamette River. It also even has an area with the Tualatin River running out to the Willamette. And there's a dock down there. It's got, sports fields. So when I was growing up, we had our soccer teams there practicing and playing in tournaments. So it's a big park. It also has as I mentioned, kind of that boat dock area. So if you needed to get into the water from there, you can do that. And it's got some great walkability. They also have a playground. They have picnic area. You can rent it out. But it's just a really nice space to have within this area. So if you live in this area, you can walk to that. It also has an elementary school. We'll have an elementary school that you can walk to. So if you have young children, that's really close by. You can see that right here on the map, primary school, literally walking distance. So we've actually sold a few in here in this area just in the last year. And, prices aren't terrible. You can still get, depending on what you're looking for. I think we sold one earlier this year in the 600s. Occasionally you'll find one cheaper than that, but it's pretty small. And they can go up to over $1 million in this area. So a lot of people have renovated those houses or added on, or you see some houses with ADUs. Some real charmers have come on the market in the last year. But Willamette's just got a vibe, right? I mean, who doesn't want to be close to a downtown area that you can easily walk to? And it's really quick to get on the freeway. So here's the freeway exit, you guys, right there. So literally, if you live in the Willamette area, whether you want to go north on the 205 or you want to go south on the 205 to I-5, You're within minutes of getting on the freeway system. So it's kind of an ideal location. You're not like deep in the woods on anything. You're quick to jump around. There's even some back roads. So if I kind of span out here, you can see there's back roads that can get you past this area. I will say that 205 does get a little congested, or a lot congested depending on the time of the day. But if you live in the Willamette area, you can take these back roads and you can get to the Stafford exit pretty fast with Eek Road right there and Borland kind of all, back down towards, the Willamette area. A lot of people take that route. And there's some other back roads too. You can also get down to the old Oregon City Bridge to cross over the river, into Oregon City. If you take, the Willamette Drive road down here, another freeway exit, or you can get into, Westland High School is literally on the map right there. So you're not too far away driving distance. But again, Willamette of West Linn, prime in many, many ways. One of my favorite areas of West Linn to talk about. But let's jump over the freeway. So let's say you go underneath that bridge. So when you're looking at the 205, that goes underneath a bridge. And then you meet up with either Salamo Road, which goes up a hill and takes you up to the top of West Linn. And just so you know, West Linn is one big hill. There's Salamo would take you up there, or you can go down Blankenship Road. There's another little area down there where they have like a Dutch Brothers, Chase Bank. They have a hardware store. They used to have a grocery store there, but unfortunately they don't. That's the only kicker about West Linn on this lower level of West Linn is a lack of grocery store access. But at any rate, so you can go up Salamo, and as we go up Salamo, Green Street, that whole area is kind of built in the 80s, early 90s area. And then as you come up Salamo to the right is Barrington Heights. So you can see it on the map here. Barrington Heights, when I was growing up, was the prestigious neighborhood in all of West Linn. When you drive through it, it's quite beautiful. The thing I appreciate about Barrington Heights is no house really looks the same. There are builders throughout the last few decades that have come in and kind of infilled some lots. Big properties. So a lot of houses are not on small lots like you find nowadays, even in luxury. It's just a really beautiful neighborhood to drive through. They decorate it beautifully during the holidays at the entrance of Barrington Heights. They put up lights and so forth. But I have a real appreciation for those homes. And one little caveat that's probably a con though, is a lot of those houses that butt up against Imperial Drive going down Beacon Hill, that area, Radcliffe Court, they hear traffic. I don't know what it is about this area. You can see the 205. That's a hill, by the way. It's down the hill. So it's not really giving us much of a reference point there. But on a very rainy, cold day, you can hear traffic. You can hear the freeway. So kind of a little caveat there. But deep into Barrington, you're not going to hear that. But yeah, just a really beautiful area of West Linn, beautiful homes, really like it. And it backs up to an area called Sunset. Now, I went to Sunset Elementary School over here. Now, Sunset was and is, it's an older community, very similar to Willamette. The houses were built turn of the century up, some of them were peppered in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, very eclectic. It's still fairly reasonable to buy into that area, but it is very eclectic. You drive through the neighborhood, no house looks alike. It's a lot of different eras of houses. And you've got the Sunset Primary School right there on the map. So you could easily walk to it if you live in that area. They do have like a little tiny kind of grocery type store in that area, always have. And then you can see it kind of isn't too far away from Westland High School. Westland High School is on the downhill side of the hill. But you've got kind of this wilderness park trailhead. So there are some trails in this area. It's very, very woodsy. It does back up to some neighborhoods in here. So you can kind of see this is on the back side here of that Wilderness Park area. And then you can see Rosemont Road. So now Rosemont Road is a key road in all of West Linn. Why is that? Because Rosemont Road goes from here where it intersects at Summit Street, and it goes straight all the way down past a lot of the subdivisions on the top of the hill. So when you're on Rosemont Road, you're at the very top of West Linn, and it goes through the back areas of West Linn. You can see there's a lot of green on the map as we look at it. That's a lot of rural areas of West Linn, and it takes you into Lake Oswego. So Rosemont Road is one of the main artery roads, if you will, that goes from West Linn to Lake Oswego on the hill. And it's beautiful. Once you get down this area on Rosemont, you start seeing farmlands that are still unique farmlands because it's not part of the urban growth boundary. Oswego Hills Vineyard, I've had client parties there. It's a gorgeous vineyard. Back when I was younger, it was a horse farm, kind of a rundown horse farm. And before that, it was actually many moons ago owned by a well-known landowner who has a little history behind it, which we won't get into in this conversation, but it's very interesting to read up on the history of Oswego Hills Vineyard. But just a beautiful vineyard, actually really good wine too. As we kind of move over to the kind of southwest of Rosemont, you're going to see Hidden Springs. Now, Hidden Springs is a neighborhood that was built primarily in the 70s and the 80s. My dad actually lived in Hidden Springs for many, many years. It's really a lot of older style homes, contemporary Northwest style homes, lots of parks kind of in between. You see Sunburst Park, Beninsky Park, and this is up on top of the hill. Some of these houses do have views of Mount Hood. So depending on where they're located in here, you do sometimes see views of Mount Hood in here. But again, larger lot homes, well established. As you go a little bit north, you hit Merrillhurst. Again, I grew up in the Merrillhurst kind of area, an older area that was, kind of built in the 70s and 80s as well. Skyline Ridge, same kind of thing. Mid-Hill area, which now this is Highway 43. So when you see this dark gray line here, that is on the backside bottom of the hill. You're no longer on the hill when you hit Highway 43, or also known as Willamette Drive. Now, let's back up to give some reference points so that we don't get too confusing here. So if we were to come off the freeway of 205, you would in theory take Willamette Drive or Highway 43. Highway 43 goes all the way into Lake Oswego, and then it takes you all the way into downtown Portland. So it is the main road throughout the West Linn area and also goes through Lake Oswego. Down at the bottom where this exit for 205 and 43 is, you're going to hit Market of Choice. That's a grocery store. There's a bunch of shopping in this area. They've got sushi, they got Starbucks, they got a Vietnamese place. This is where you would go in this area if you need to hit up a grocery store or get some amenities. Now, let's talk for just a minute about Willamette River. There are some river properties in West Linn because obviously it butts up against the Willamette. And I'm going to talk about this for a minute. So here's that little market area I was talking about, River Street. My grandmother owned a house on River Street. I actually lived in it for a few years after she moved out into assisted living. Older homes on the river. She actually bought hers. This is kind of a cool fun fact. She bought her house for $12,000 back in 1926, I believe, and lived there until she was almost 100 years old. But I digress a little bit. But there is some great river properties along, and they're all different eras. Like my grandmother's property was built in the 20s. Her next door neighbor was built in the 80s, and then so on and so forth all the way down the line. And a lot of people have come in there and renovated the houses on the river, and they have river access. Like my grandmother had a good solid acre of land that went all the way out to the river. Another fun fact, in 1996, when we had one of our record floods, we hadn't had a record flood like that since 69, I believe, or in the 60s. This river came all the way up to her house. Now keep in mind, her house was on a hill ledge, then it dropped steeply down, and then it was a good half acre or more before you got to the river. And there, literally when the 96 flood hit, it went running by her house and it almost flooded her house. We were actually pumping water out of her basement. I remember being there, putting up sand bags and watching the river go flying by. It was a very interesting time. However, I digress again. So we're going to pull this back up, and you can see that the West Linn area just kind of follows all the way down. The Hammerly area, the Hammerly Park, there's a beautiful road that is kind of down near, well, this is Bolton. Let's get a little further down. That's also a park and school, elementary school. Then you got Mary S. Young Park, which is off Willamette Drive, a big park. They also have a lot of areas there where kids play sports and whatnot. They have a dog park. It goes all the way down to the river, tons of walking trails, running trails, so forth. As you kind of go further down, you're going to hit Cedar Oak Park Primary School. And down in the Cedar Oak area, there's actually some great walkways to get. It's called Old River Road. When I was younger, I used to love walking down this river, Old River Road, because it actually takes you all the way into Lake Oswego, you guys. It's such a cool walking trail. It's flat. You feel safe. There's a lot of neighborhoods in that area, so it's well populated, but it runs along the river and the housing is really pretty, and it's just a really nice area to walk to. A lot of the homes are older, but they have big lots. So if you're kind of looking for a big, more established piece of land or a house that has, more than just a cookie cutter size lot, down there is a great place to go, but they are older homes. And then across Highway 43, as we kind of come up here, you are going to look at going up towards Skyline Ridge, that Merrillhurst area. So that's all up here and this is all a hill. So when we kind of talk about West Linn, we always have to reference the fact that we are talking about a hill. And I'm going to try to see if I can kind of give you a sense of things here. This whole area is all on a hill. Okay, all this stuff is a hill. And this is the bottom of the hill. So Highway 43, that dark gray line that we've been talking about, that is not a hill. That's at the very bottom. And then everything to the east of that road is all kind of going down towards the river. So if that helps you kind of reference hills and whatnot. But as you go further down Highway 43, you're starting to trend into Lake Oswego. So we always say, a lot of times in Westland, we don't know where Westland, Lake Oswego always start, but as we go down Highway 43, it really starts down here in the Mary's Woods area. This used to be an old kind of convent Catholic feeling area. They have Mary's Woods, which is a assisted living area now. It's actually quite beautiful. And there's just kind of the Merrillhurst area, and that's all going to be the Lake Oswego kind of address and whatnot. So, and then you've got Mid Hill, which kind of runs into Merrillhurst Skyline area. I used to trick or treat in all those areas. So it's kind of a blast from the past. But I'm going to scroll the map back out, and you can just see that Westland's not a super big town. Like I said, tons of neighborhoods. Many neighborhoods are built in the 70s and 80s and 90s. You know, if we kind of look at the Rosemont area, especially, let's kind of look on that area. This is up near Rosemont Road. So you run into kind of up at the top of the hill. There's a Safeway, by the way. So at the top of the hill in Westland, the nice thing is they do have a Safeway. They have an area that has some amenities that you don't have to drive forever in a day to get to. They have Starbucks up there for those of you who need a Starbucks. They have some restaurants and some different things that are kind of close by, but that services the hill, so to speak. So if you live on the hill in Westland, you're likely driving to that Safeway to do your grocery shopping. Again, there's not a ton of shopping really, really close to Westland. So like I mentioned, down in Willamette, there is no easy accessible grocery stores. You have to either go on top of the hill in Westland, or you have to drive to the next exit to get to the market of choice. But I just kind of want to show you a little bit more here. So you've got that Hidden Springs area we talked about, and there's kind of another area here that was built in the 90s. So we have a lot of 70s and 80s built homes in Westland, but there was a lot of 90s built homes. And you can kind of see Oppenlander Field, which by the way is going under development, sadly. That's where a lot of people would go take their kids for sports and whatnot. But kind of at the top of this hill off Horton Road, there's a lot of neighborhoods in here built in the early and mid 90s. So oftentimes you are seeing kind of a variable type of housing, but the typical housing era that Westland built in was 70s, 80s, and 90s. And then you do have some peppered in early 2000 neighborhoods like Parker Crest on top of the hill. Those were all in the early 2000s when they built a lot of this area as well. So I hope this gives you guys some reference points on Westland. I could go on and on about Westland. Oh, one more thing here. We've got the Bolton area, which is just southeast of Willamette Drive, kind of an older area. We talked about that just for a second, but I just want to make sure you guys saw that. Kind of an older, probably built in the 60s and 70s down in that area. But needless to say, Westland has a lot of options for housing. A lot of different cool neighborhoods, depending on what you're looking for. They do have a big luxury market as well. So if you are looking to, you know, not just be in Barrington Heights, but you want higher end homes, there are peppered in throughout, depending if they have views of Mount Hood, larger lots. Again, Westland doesn't have a lot of land left. So there's just not a lot of places for people to build. There's certainly not areas of subdivisions for them to build. They have had the Street of Dreams there in the past, but again, it's one of those areas where land is sacred in Westland. So when they find it, oftentimes a builder or a developer gets their hands on it, builds a spec home or a couple spec homes. But if you are looking to make a move to Westland, do not hesitate to reach out. I know a lot. I'm very fluid in that area and can give you a lot more feedback on it. And it's a wonderful place to raise your kids, great schools, do your research, but fairly safe based on all the data online and so forth. So reach out and hit us up if you are looking to make a move to Westland.